Gauss theorem, the requirement for the Gauss theorem comes from the fact that the Coulomb's law has certain limitations to it when applied at a macro level. That is, if let's say I am going to take a very bulk object which is charged like a sphere or like a cube, then in such a case finding the electric field due to the charges which have accumulated on the surface of this particular bulk object, it becomes very difficult to find the electric field at a position outside this particular object. So in such a case, at these kind of macro levels, we use what is called as the Gauss theorem. So now the Gauss theorem can be stated as the electric flux of net electric field through a closed surface equals the net charge enclosed by the surface divided by epsilon naught. Now remember one thing, this is epsilon naught is called as the permittivity of the free space. Now mathematically this particular statement can be given as the net flux, which is phi, equals to closed integral of E bar dot ds bar equals to q enclosed divided by epsilon naught. Now let us understand this equation with the help of this diagram. Now at point O, inside this particular enclosure, let's say this is a sphere of radius r. So inside the sphere of radius r, we have taken a charge q at the center of the sphere, and we are going to look at what is the direction of the electric field due to this particular charge at a point, let's say P. So at point P, if we just have a look at it, the electric field will be in the radially outward direction if we are going to take this charge q as the positive charge. In such a case, the electric field will be normally outside the sphere of this particular sphere. Now, if I am going to talk about this, at point P, the area vector will be normal. So, area vector is taken as ds bar, and the angle between E bar and ds bar is taken as alpha at point P. Now, let us see how we can actually derive this particular relation using the Coulomb's law. Now at point P, the electric field intensity can be given as q by 4 pi epsilon naught r square. Then a small amount of flux which is coming out of this small area at point P can be given as delta phi is equal to E bar dot ds bar equals to E ds cos alpha. We know that A bar dot B bar equals to AB cos alpha from the dot product. So using this same concept here, we can see that E bar and ds bar are inclined at an angle alpha between each other. So now we are going to use this. So delta phi equals to q by 4 pi epsilon naught r square. This is from E. We are going to substitute, and ds cos alpha we are keeping as it is. Now we are going to rearrange the terms. So here delta phi is equal to q by 4 pi epsilon naught into delta s cos alpha divided by r square. This quantity delta s cos alpha by r square, we are going to put it as delta omega. This delta omega is called as the solid angle. So where we are actually looking at the solid angle means it is actually at the point P. At point P, whatever the solid angle is subtended by the charge, we are going to take it as delta omega. So delta omega we are going to substitute for delta s cos alpha by r square. So now the equation becomes delta phi is equal to q by 4 pi epsilon naught delta omega. So if you want to find out what is the total flux all over the surface, that is throughout the enclosure, if we have to find out, then what we can do is we can take the summation. We know that q is already a total charge and 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught is a constant. So we have to take the summation of delta omega as it is the only variable we have over here. So phi is equal to q by 4 pi epsilon naught summation of omega. Now we can see that summation of omega for a solid sphere, that is, if we are going to consider the entire spherical surface, then the solid angle for the entire spherical surface can be given as 4 pi steradian. So we are going to substitute for summation delta omega as 4 pi. On substitution, we can see that this 4 pi and 4 pi gets cancelled. So we have phi equals to q by epsilon naught. That is, if we are going to find out what is the net electric flux, due to an internal charge, that is a charge which is enclosed within a boundary, then phi will be given by Q by epsilon naught. Now let's say in the same diagram, if I am going to take another charge capital Q at another point, let's say M, at point M is actually an external point outside this enclosure. So in such a case, the angle subtended by this position Q at point P will be equal to 0. The reason is because it is an external point outside this enclosure. So for any outside point, the summation of delta omega will become equal to 0, and hence the net flux also is going to become equal to 0. So now let's say if we have a n charge system, this is for only a single charge system that we had considered. Let's say instead of taking only one charge, we had, let's say, n charges, q1, q2, q3, q4, like this, and n number of charges enclosed in a particular surface. In such a case, what I can do is I can take the net flux equal to integration of E bar dot ds bar. Here E bar is the total electric flux at this point P due to this entire system of charge which is enclosed inside the enclosure. Then the net flux can be given as phi is equal to closed integral of E bar dot ds bar equals to Q enclosed. Here Q enclosed is the total charge, that is the algebraic sum of all the charges which are enclosed inside the enclosure. So I am going to take it as Q enclosed divided by epsilon naught. Now using this and using the symmetry conditions of such kind of symmetrical objects, we can easily find what is the net electric flux. We can also find what is the electric field if we have the knowledge of flux and the charges enclosed. So in such cases, the Gauss theorem actually gives us a very useful and very efficient way of calculating the electric field. So this is how the Gauss theorem helps us in the determination of electric field. Thank you.